So, just another day in the life of the Border Patrol, chasing down would-be arrivals to the massive sanctuary called California. Utter lawlessness and anti-constitutional. However, there is a sliver of hope for the Golden State. Polling for governor, the Public Policy Institute in January, Democrat Gavin Newsom had 23%. Closest Republican challenger, John Cox, at 7%. Today, Newsom, 28%. Cox is up to 14%. So support for Cox has doubled. Question is that the beginning of a trend? Is it an aberration? Or is 14% about as high as a Republican gubernatorial candidate in the reddest of red states can go? Joining me now from Southern California, Republican gubernatorial candidate for the Golden State, John Cox. John, Newt Gingrich is coming out and saying, hey, there might be a pretty good chance that there could be a Republican governor next year in California. I mean, that's quite a bold statement. If you look at the polling, I know, of course, you want to look at the bright side of the polling, but do you believe that it's accurate? And if it is accurate, what is changing in California?
Well, don't forget, Graham, and thank you for having me on. Great to be with you. Don't forget, that's 7 candidates, so that 14% reflects the fact that the vote is pretty well split. In November, it'll be 2 candidates. And I think the people of this state have suffered long enough under the Democratic control. Newsom himself has said that in the last 8 years, the poverty rate has soared, the tax burden has been crushing people in small business. The cost of living has made this state number 50 out of 50 in quality of life. I think the Democrats have to take ownership of that. And I got to tell you, I think the Speaker is right, Speaker Gingrich. He's a great conservative policy leader as well as a patriot, and he believes that the people of California have been pounded into poverty way more than they should, obviously, and he thinks a Republican can get elected. I agree with him because I think this state has been run into the ground and it's a mess, and the Democrats are going to have to take responsibility for it.
So now we're seeing part of the pushback, right? We're seeing these municipalities, I think the number is up to 9, all of them in Southern California, by the way, that are saying no to Moonbeam's lawlessness, to his sanctuary status policies, and yes to the United States Constitution. It's a wonderful thing. I think it's a wave that you, as a politician, should be riding right now. I'm sure you support it, but the Central Valley is an interesting place of California. It is blue for the most part. I'm sorry, it's red.
It's red
in a sea of blue, right?
Right.
It's more conservative. Yet we're not seeing the Central Valley hop on this bandwagon. Is that because they need the workers?
Well, and let me correct you on one thing, by the way, Graham, and that is I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman.
All right.
I started with nothing, and I built a business that's worth over $250 million. And I did that by finding solutions to problems, which is not what our politicians do. And the sanctuary state nonsense is all about that. We know that these politicians are trying to create fear and anger about people. You're right, the Central Valley is an issue because there's a lot of businesses there that need workers. And frankly, I've talked about a guest worker program to make sure that they do have workers. That worked a long time ago. The unions killed it. I think that's something that could be brought back.
In other words, there's a legal way to do this, right?
There is. We certainly need a growing economy. We certainly need to make sure that all of our businesses in this state have a good workforce. And I think the Central Valley is about that. But, we also have to make sure the rule of law is enforced, which means this illegal alien invasion that's going on here. I mean, it's amazing to me, Graham, about this article or this story about the horse trailer. You've heard Democratic politicians sit there just in the last week or two say that there's very little, illegal immigration coming in. And then you hear a story like this, 18 people in a horse trailer with, endangered. These people are being endangered as well and endangering the rest of us. There's got to be something done about the border. The border security should not be an issue. The first thing I'll do as governor is get rid of this sanctuary state nonsense. And make sure that we build a border wall and get tunnel detection equipment and make sure that we protect the people of the state.
And the word that you used, I get a lot of flack for because I use it on this program. I do call it an invasion because it is an invading army. What Donald Trump is talking about with that caravan coming up toward the border, it is de facto an invading army, and we need to put it to an end. Now, I want to talk about you.
Yeah.
You were raised in Chicago. You're not originally from California. And you are a businessman, and you opened up a law firm, successful law firm, private equity management. 2000, you ran for Congress in Illinois. 2002, you ran for Senate in Illinois. 2004, Cook County, Illinois Recorder of Deeds. You didn't win any of those. And you also ran for president in 2008. And in this state, one of the things that you're called for is that the members of the assembly in Sacramento actually wear badges when they're on the floor there and they're arguing regarding legislation or what have you, badges that indicate where they take their campaign money from, their donations. That probably doesn't fly very well in California, does it?
Well, let's go over my history, first of all, Graham. In the course of that time frame, I built a business, and I kept looking at the political leadership in Illinois, which is where I was from, and I wanted to do something about it. So you're right, I did run for a few offices to try to do something about the corruption and the cronyism and the general incompetence of the political management. I have moved to California. Actually, I'm the last member of my family. I have a couple aunts that lived here their entire lives. My mom retired from the Chicago school, being a school teacher in Chicago, and she retired to Fresno. So
doesn't everybody from Chicago eventually move to California? That's a law, isn't it, in Illinois, I believe?
I think they get tired of the weather just like I did. I mean, this is a place with gorgeous weather, but
the bottom line is you're not unlike President Trump, where you
No.
look at the situation and you say, hey, I can fix it. I have real world experience and I can fix it.
Exactly, and I'm horrified by the kind of management we get, and that was the motivation behind that initiative to make them wear their decals like NASCAR drivers. I'm just horrified that our politicians are for sale. I mean, think about this system. People who want something from government hand over money to these politicians to run their campaigns, and then they get repaid with favors. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better definition of corruption, and I think it's got to change, and that was why I sponsored that initiative. I was trying to highlight the problem for people, and I'm talking about solutions to that in this campaign.
Can California be saved from itself? I know the first thing you would do as governor, if elected, would be to tackle the sanctuary issue. That's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
think I
easy.
would also, as a businessman, I would look at the books, right? Because you know Moonbeam is cooking the books.
Absolutely.
The entire system needs to be audited and figure out exactly where how bankrupt California is, because it's not a matter of if.
No,
It's how bad the situation is.
I take great delight at the fact that your show is called The Daily Ledger. As you know, I'm a CPA, and you got to have transparency. I mean, and of course, Jerry Brown doesn't want any transparency with respect to the bullet train. I mean, he just wants that kept quiet so he can continue to spend money on his cronies. That thing is so over budget and so delayed. That'll be the second thing I do is cancel that project. We've got to have some other mass transit around the state, but it's got to be intelligent and it's got to be done in a way that is not corrupt. That bullet train was built for corruption, and I'm going to change it.
Bullet train to nowhere. Well,
Absolutely.
the primary, your primary in California is what, about 2 months away. So we'll have you back on the program after you win it, which I presume you think you're going to win, and we'll talk more issues then. John Cox,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.